Hey there Internet, welcome to the Hard On Gear channel where I discuss and review my used and abused knives and gear. Okay, so pretty much every time I get a knife I try to do an unboxing video, and if I don't, at least I try to get a video out within a week or two of handling it so I can give my first impression as genuinely as I can. With the Ghost Strike, for whatever reason, I've kept forgetting to do that because I've probably had this knife, I don't know, close to a year now, and just for whatever reason, I've not really used it that much. Well, I'll get to the reasons why I haven't, but I've just neglected to do any videos about this whatsoever, although it's been in for a few size comparisons and stuff. And yeah, so here we are finally talking about the Gerber Ghost Strike. So skeletonized handle, pretty good sheath, and as you can see, I've got a little paracord ball in the end here because I have a little bit of an issue with this knife in that I can't get a full grip on it. Pretty much every video I've watched other people talk about this knife, they talk about kind of the lack of a pinky grip. The paracord ball kind of solves that a little bit for me, although it's certainly not super secure. So the Ghost Strike is pretty much the only knife that I found comfortable enough to to scout carry. I don't scout carry a whole lot, and I really don't have any intention to start doing so any more than I have to, just to give this knife its fair shake. I'll probably try some different carry options here after doing this video, but this is the only knife that I found small enough, low profile enough to be able to not be a huge pain in the back, literally when I'm sitting or just even walking around or doing different stuff. Bigger knives, like I've tried the Tops Millspy Elite. The way these Tops sheaths work, you can kind of spin that clip around pretty much 360, and I scout carried it, works good for my left dominant hand, and used it when I was working around the woods a little bit just to see how secure the sheath was and kind of test a little bit like the security of the sheath and the knife, see if it got lost, which was kind of a dangerous game, but it's held up well. No issues with the sheath. I carry this handle down all the time. Again, no issues. But again, the scout carry, a little bit annoying. A little bit of a bigger knife, still not that big. I know people who've carried, the K-bar USMCs, for some reason people do enjoy carrying a big, like almost 12-inch fixed blade on their back. Again, if you ever have to sit down in a vehicle or anywheres, it's probably going to get annoying. The Gerber Ghost Strike, though, just a small, it's not really meant to be an EDC fixed blade, more of a tactical self-defense type fixed blade. It's not something that I really planned on getting for an EDC knife or anything really, other than just a little bit of channel fun, and because it looked like a pretty decent little thing, size to weight ratio capability, I figured it would still do a decent job for EDC stuff. Unfortunately, it's kind of an underperformer, and the 420 HC steel is about what it is, and I don't think this knife was ever meant to be a big long-term slicer and have good edge retention, but yeah, people still do talk about it pretty well for EDC stuff, or at least some of the videos I've watched. Blade HQ's got some pretty positive things to say about this, but you know, sometimes they over-endorse things. So I wanted to try it out a little bit, and I have sharpened this thing up because the factory edge wasn't all that great. Still could use some more work, but at least this thing should be popping a few hairs off now. But again, not meant to be a big EDC slicer, more meant to be a penetrator. And this weird, I don't know what they call it, like, is this Spanto clip, drop point blade. Good narrowing down at the blade stock towards the tip, but it's a pretty, not that thick. I think it's supposed to be 1/8 of an inch blade stock, pretty much the whole way through, full tang, skeletonized, rubberized handle. But yeah, still not something I'm going to use much after I do the experimenting needed for this video, and then maybe we'll do some ridiculous testing that I really wouldn't do with my nicer knives and just see how much abuse this thing could take. Because yeah, self-defense wise, probably not a bad knife, but there's a lot more preferable things if that's what you're carrying. But yeah, really no other purpose for this thing for me, but we'll get really quick into the price, the specs, and a few pros and cons. And then eventually I'll do a full review on this thing and probably a few comparison videos with some other similar knives, like maybe the Azula 2, very similar size, a few similar carry options, and another super popular appendix or scout carry knife, the Bradford Guardian 3. Another EDC fixed blade that I thought I would like and didn't really end up using all that much. Maybe the Bradford Guardian 3.5 in my future sometime. I'll get to try that one out. A little bit more of an Azula 2. style finger choil with a bigger handle. So yeah, Guardian 3.5 probably be the better of the two, but maybe some comparison videos between these three fellas in the future. So I'll pull this thing off of my belt and then we'll talk a little bit about the specs and stuff. So this thing's about 40-45 bucks US, and more like 60, 70, even upwards of 80 in Canada. Can be a little bit harder to find, whereas it is more of a, well, it's designed self-defense. And in Canada, you're not really allowed to defend yourself in any kind of a lethal way or anything, really. Knives and anything that you're carrying on your person with the intent to harm can be considered a weapon, and then you're kind of legally in the wrong, so it just puts you in a whole bunch of hurt within the Canadian legal system. So not going to talk too much about that, but if you were going to use this thing for any kind of an EDC purpose, scout carry maybe not always the best option. So this sheath can actually be manipulated a little bit, so you can take these two belt loops off, screw them laterally like this. I'm going to probably pause the video and switch that up right quick, because I might try doing a handle down carry on this like I've been using the Azula and the Topsmell Spy Elite for, so stand by for that. Belt loop switched over, so now I'll have this kind of doing the same thing I've been doing with, say, the Mil Spy Elite and the Azula 2 in kind of a handle down vertical carry. Just easier to get to the handle, not even for like any fancy ninja shit or whatever. Just if a person has to get to a knife and you don't have to fight your t-shirt or whatever over the top, it's just kind of easier to get to with the handle down. So try out the Ghost Strike from that position. Maybe I'll use it a little bit more, because the scout carry is just an annoying thing for me. And while this is pretty much the only knife that I would ever scout carry, and the only one that I've ever found comfortable enough to scout carry, now that I've switched this sheath over, I don't know when the next time I'll ever be scout carrying a knife is, because it really is just, aside from the like I said, a little bit uncomfortable if you are sitting or driving or anything like that, there's something about it that just makes me feel like a gigantic loser if that thing pops out of my shirt. I don't know what it is about scout carry. It just always seems like a little bit of a flex, or like a little bit of an attempt to be a little bit more of a, yeah, a tactical knife guy than a person really needs to be. But I know guys who carry larger fixed blades on their back and they just say it's practical and whatever and go them. But as far as my future knife carrying career, I do not think scout carry is ever going to be much of a thing for me. Just get into the specs of the Ghost Strike and do a little size comparison and stuff. And I guess while we've got the Azula 2 and the Topsmell Spy Elite out, why don't we just do a quick size comparison run through with a few of these knives now. Topsmell Spy Elite being the big dog of the three, and actually this works quite well because the Ghost Strike kind of fits right in the middle. And if you take away that little paracord lanyard ball that I put at the base, yeah, probably a little closer in size to the Azula. Maybe that gives it a little bit of the illusion of being larger. But like I said, without that paracord ball at the end, it's kind of hard to get a full 4-finger grip, and different people have talked about the hot spots this knife gets pretty quickly just because of the light skeletonized handle. Again, pointing out that this isn't meant to be an EDC knife, and it's just meant to do a little stabby and be put away, and you probably won't ever get hot spots doing that stuff because you'd be worried about other things. Yeah, Bradford Guardian 3, pretty much the same size, and again, right in that same EDC size ballpark for appendix and scout carry. Any larger than that, it's getting pretty impractical. A few folders, Rat Model 1 and 2. Rat Model 1, significantly larger, and I gotta pull that paracord ball out of here because I keep tricking myself with that. And the Rat Model 2 actually a little bit bigger. Cold Steel, Recon 1, and Code 4. Okay, not really good size comparisons. So those are both way out of the ballpark. How about the Paramilitary 2 and the Spider Code Delica, which should be, yeah, just about the same size. But I've actually been carrying the Delica a little bit more lately in shorts and sweats and that kind of thing. Actually for work a little bit more too, just to get a little bit of pocket time. And for the size, actually pretty nice. And I'm not a big fan of carrying littler knives. Anything really under 6 inches for a folder just doesn't end up getting much time in my pocket. But the Delica so far kind of feeling all right. Anything else size comparison? I mean, not really. We got a couple of fixed blades here I was going to show you just for the sake of comparison. Just the sheath size and weight ratio. The total weight of this sheath, I think being, or the knife and the sheath, 3.5 ounces. And only 1.8 ounce for the knife itself, maybe another ounce for a little bit of paracord on there, but under 2 ounces for the knife. It's super freaking light. Aside from like the size of it and the low profile making it easy to scout carry, you really don't notice it on your belt all that much. So a couple of typical hip dangle belt carry knives. There's the Groman number 1 and with the Morikansbull. So quite a bit larger knives, but just to show you, what a typical dangle carry will be taking up as far as space on your hip versus what this little Ghost Strike is going to be. And say now I've got it set up for a hip carry like that, except handle down. So yeah, way smaller, way lighter, but like I said earlier, it's not going to be as comfortable. And doing a lot of any bushcrafty stuff, I mean, you could go all day with something like a more Cansbull. You're going to want to go for about 3 minutes before you're going to want to throw this thing into the woods. So a Ghost Strike, again, has its purpose, probably not long-term EDC or bushcraft use. So I think I touched on the price a little bit earlier, but probably around $50, $60 max in the US. I mean, I think 45 is more of the average price you're going to find. Now for 420 HC, maybe a little bit on the pricey side. Gerber's, most of their knives are in either 420 or maybe like, I don't know if they're still using like 8CR13 MOV or some of the even 5CR 15 or something really crappy like that on the old Gerber Bear Grylls models, which we're not going to talk about too much. But still not a great steel. They're using it, I don't know, just for the easy sharpenability of it. And again, where it's more of a stabby, less of a slicey knife. I don't know if maybe that's what they're going for. But 420 HC, never really something I've got to be a big fan of. Buck knives tend to have a little bit better of edge retention and a better heat treat, supposedly, than some of these Gerber blades. But Gerber's definitely come a long way. Supposedly they're better. This is my only modern Gerber, and I gotta say I wasn't really super impressed. Again, the edge out of the box, relatively dull. And even after I touched it up on the work sharp, I mean, 1095, which is what a lot of my fixed blades are, super easy to touch up. Yeah, let's just see what the Azula 2 is doing, which isn't a super slicey knife, but pretty easy to get that thing hair popping. Just touch the top mill spy lead up. And yeah, 1095, 3 minutes of work on the work sharp, hair popping sharp. I probably spent about 5 minutes from the factory edge on this, and I still haven't managed to get this thing doing nearly what I wanted to do. So I actually might need the whole edge kind of rig around a little bit. But again, not supposed to be a slicer. Just still, you'd think out of the factory they'd want it to be more impressive than that. So yeah, overall blade length 3.3 inches, but for whatever reason they've got this huge waste of space right in the middle of the knife. Not a whole lot of benefit to this other than this weird choil that you got at the bottom. So the sharpening choil kind of goes all the way to the base of the blade, and I can't really see a practical purpose as to why you'd want that there. Yeah, perhaps I guess this is one of these spots where it clips into the sheath. So, okay, great, practical purpose for that. And ambidextrous sheath, super nice. And yeah, I guess that top notch there and the bottom notch for the sheath, maybe that extra, what we got here, like almost a centimeter or more of space. Maybe they could have found a different purpose, but I'll say if that was entirely the only way to make the sheath work, I get why they made the compromise, but maybe an extra, 3.43 inches of blade length would be nice, or add the handle or a little bit of a forward finger choil on that so you get a full 4-finger grip on that without having to put a big ball of paracord on the base. Another thing that's been discussed before is the skeletonized handle. You'd think you'd be able to paracord wrap it. You cannot because of the way this sits really tight into the sheath. So maybe you could add some paracord on the very back of this. Probably still would add a little bit to your grip. Wouldn't get in the way of the sheath, but as far as putting a whole paracord wrap on the whole thing, not really possible. Other than that, the sheath, being able to switch the belt loops from vertical to horizontal is pretty handy, and overall the sheath's a big win. I don't know if this is like a little GFN, glass reinforced nylon, plastic, something along those lines. And I think it's just a rubberized coating on the handle here, which has been supposedly known to rub off a little bit. Whole bunch of jimping on the bottom of it, right into the metal tang of the knife. And yeah, rubberized over top of it. Again, it feels good right now, but I haven't used this thing enough to really tell you how it's going to wear off. Eventually, after a year or two, I'll do a full review on it and tell you how badly I beat this thing up. And like I said, I feel like I'll probably end up just messing around with this thing, doing terrible things to it that I shouldn't do with knives because I don't see me ever getting any real use or carrying this. Yeah, geez, I was going over the specs. So yeah, overall length, 6.9 inches, just under 7. 3.3 inches of blade, but kind of not really. Probably a little bit less than 3 inches of actual usable cutting edge. 3.5 ounces total weight with the sheath, 1.8 ounce with the knife itself. Super light, $40, $50 American, something closer to 60, 70, even up to 80 Canadian. And yeah, probably not worth the price. Maybe take 10, 20 bucks off of that. You're probably getting a little more comparable. But for that price, $60, you can get a way better knife. As far as the purpose of it, though, being a self-defense knife, sure, but the K-Bar TDI knives tend to be right around that same ballpark. AUS 8 steel, so still not a great steel, again, with the purpose of It's supposed to be more of a self-defense knife, not an EDC knife with great edge retention. So you're kind of losing a little bit on the blade steel, but the TDI overall for price, if that's the same kind of purpose and I guess compromises that they're making on the knife, I don't know if I'm really going to go with this Gerber Ghost Strike. Going to grab the TDI eventually, and I'm sure I'll do a little comparison between these two. Anything else special to say about this thing? I mean, I've pretty much nailed all the pros and cons. Yeah, geez, I guess if you like the Gerber Ghost Strike and you have anything more to add to this that I've missed, or you pretty much feel the same as I do, let me know down in the comments. And of course, if you like this video and you want to help the channel in any way, hit the stupid big thumb button on the bottom, preferably the one with the thumb pointing up, but if you don't like it, thumb down, whatever, we'll deal with it. Yeah, Gerber Ghost Strike, not that great. Still better than the old Gerbers and the initial introduction that I got to Gerber being that stupid Bear Grylls collab thing, which eventually I'll do a whole video ranting about how terrible that is. For now, yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning into this one. This is the Hard On Gear channel signing off.